6.5 acre site on the North Wales, North Shropshire border. It's certified organic with the Soil Association, and we grow trees for commercial settings, traditional orchards, small holdings, and anyone really. I've even sold trees to Tory politicians. I don't care who. Someone wants a tree, I'll sell it. Yeah, like I say, we're certified organic with the Soil Association, and we grow in a designed agroforestry system. And the biggest deal with nursery stock, certainly with apple trees, is that we have a 7-year rotation to help combat apple replant disease. If we plant apple trees in the same space year after year, as I did do at an older site, those trees over the years get smaller and smaller because they're struggling with apple replant disease. Yeah, so 7 years seems to be the key to combat replant disease. So the whole site is based on a 7-year rotation of these trees. Our nursery stock's in the ground for 2 years, which means we need 9 different spaces to allow that 7-year rotation. We're also plant healthy certified, which means an extra £1,000 a year on top of everything, but it also means that we follow strict biosecurity controls, and we can sell our trees to local authority funded projects. So yeah, I want to talk about the design of the system. So I bought these 6.5 acres in 2018. And the idea was that, I had 3/4 of an acre around the corner for 10 years, and I made loads of mistakes. I did a permaculture design course, I did some forest gardening courses, I did quite a lot of courses, and it was all about the design, and I've got to get this design right. And then I rented these 3/4 of an acre and just did a whole load of stuff without designing it. Did a whole load of really good quality mistakes in this small plot, and then I bought this place, and it was like, right, I'm gonna design this so that everything's bang on, and I want to spend 2 years in the design process, sitting, observing, to get everything right. And like 2 weeks after I bought this plot, somebody was like, I want to buy 4,000 trees off you over the next 2 years. So, and I need to pay you right now. So, okay, all right. And it meant planting trees straight away, which initially I thought, I want to do this design, I want to sit and observe and get it right. But it worked out really well. So we planted those, over a couple of years, those 4,000 trees in block 4. And it was a really handy experience, actually, just getting we tried with my tractor that didn't have a creeper box on it, so it meant that we couldn't plant fast enough. And yeah, again, we made a whole bunch of mistakes in one corner of the field, and it was a really useful part of the process to enable us to design the rest of the plot. And yeah, the idea was that I wanted to create this closed loop system. I wanted to grow all my soil improvement, my pest control, even to some extent some disease resistance on site. I wanted to create this sustainable closed loop system. And you can see here where we've got regular coppice areas, and block 1, block 2, block 3 and block 4, and that's where we have our rotation. And the coppices consist mostly of willow. We have a range of different willows. It's not really a wet site. So before I bought the plot, I was thinking, when I buy a plot, I'm going to get alder and willow. Very fast growing species. Alder's really good, it's a nitrogen fixer. It's host to black-kneed capsid, which is a little creature that predates on aphids. But then I bought this site that's really free draining and decided native alder isn't good enough. Or native alder won't work here because it's too free draining. So we went for a range of different willows, and some broadleaf trees. Yeah, so we've gone for Daphnoides, Salix daphnoides, and also Chinese super willow, Viminalis and corkscrew willow. So I talked about growing disease control on site. There's salicylic acid in the willow. When you chip that, the salicylic acid can leach out of the soil and help with various fungal diseases such as scab and possibly even canker in fruit trees. So I wanted a range of different willows, and they grow really fast as well, so that gives us a load of biomass. I didn't want to rely just on willows. Felt like a bit too monocultural just having willows, so Coppice 2 and Coppice 5 are broadleaf trees. So we've got silver birch, cherry, sweet chestnut, sycamore, small-leaved lime, hazel and sweet chestnut, and they are some of the fastest trees I could think of, really. And silver birch and cherry are the ones, if you want to be planting some broadleaf trees that grow like crazy, then cherry and silver birch are the ones to grow. But yeah, they don't compare to the willow at all, especially Viminalis. It's amazing. It can be grown like 3.5, 4 meters in a year, and this is even on a dry site. If you can see that, that's the picture of the site. That's how it's come about after the design. And so yeah, we have this, like I say, we have this crop rotation and permanent areas of coppice. This is some data that I found. It was some research carried out by Bartlett Trees, looking at the different salicylic acid levels in the willow. And the highest is Chinese willow, which I couldn't get hold of at the time. Oh, sorry, it's not. It's Daphnoides. Daphnoides is the highest level of salicylic acid. And Viminalis is on there, and it has the lowest level of salicylic acid. And it seems that the more vigorous the willow, the lower the level of salicylic acid within that willow. Corkscrew willow is another good one for high salicylic acid levels, but it's not very good from a biomass point of view. But what we don't know is what level of salicylic acid is actually good or bad or good enough for this. I'm not a scientist, and we don't have, I'm struggling with time to carry out any proper trials, but if anyone has any information on this, please do share it with us. But yeah, I based some of my plantings on this. I also saw some research, which again I think was carried out by Bartlett Trees, on single species wood chip used as a mulch around fruit trees, and cherry trees. Cherry wood chip was shown to increase fruiting and canopy size by more than any of the other single species within this trial. So there was silver birch, hawthorn, oak, beech, and yeah, cherry wood chip as a single species came out the best within this trial, hence having a range of other broadleaf trees within this coppice system. So like I say, the site is designed to be a closed loop system. It's only, 6 years old now, so we're not there yet. We've coppiced the willow. We coppiced the willow after 2 years, 2 years after planting, and we're about to coppice willow this winter, and you'll see some photos shortly of how vigorous that willow is. But yeah, the idea was that we grow a lot of, or all of our soil improvement and some of our pest and disease control on site to create this holistic closed loop system. So Ramial chipped wood, is what we get from short rotation coppice. So yeah, Ramial chipped wood essentially means wood chip from branches under 7 centimetres in diameter. The idea is that the closer you are to the stem, or the younger that stem, the more nutrients there are within that wood. It breaks down very fast, it's very nutrient dense, and it's easily broken down by soil organisms. In that smaller wood you have a higher nitrogen to carbon ratio than you do in larger diameter wood, which means we can apply it fresh to, so we'll plant our rootstocks in March, April time, and we can apply that wood chip straight away, and it's of no detriment to the rootstocks whatsoever. I think I don't know how it would work applied fresh to young veg transplants, for example. I don't know, has anyone tried that with freshly chipped Ramial chipped wood? Right, okay. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I feel like it's fine with the fruit trees because, you know, they're 50, 60 centimetres high with a good root system. So it works nicely for us applied fresh. And you can see on the picture, in the picture on the left, that lovely white rock, that fungal duff, which smells amazing. So yeah, we mulch all our nursery stock with wood chip. At the moment we're still reliant on tree surgeons coming by and dumping some of their stuff with us. And I still don't know whether we're going to be, 100% using our own wood chip or not. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. But that wood chip is amazing stuff. You know, it acts as it's a weed suppressant. It minimises the need for tillage. So we plant our rootstocks into cultivated soil. We'll do a couple of passes with the hoe for a few weeks, and then we put a good that much 7-8 centimetres of wood chip around the trees, and it keeps pretty much all the weeds at bay. You get some dock and some dandelion and a bit of couch grass coming through, but it really holds the weeds at bay. And like all mulches, it retains moisture, and you can see some years when we don't have enough wood chip and we'll have rows that aren't mulched. There's a massive difference in that soil moisture content. It's a great soil amendment. It's full of nutrients and breaks down to a rich compost, and generally it breaks down to a neutral pH. So our land was, I had it tested when I bought it for pH. We were at pH 5.5 on the far left of that picture, and it went up to 5.9 on the far right. And rather than applying lime broad scale, I thought I'll go for local applications of wood chip to increase that pH. And I haven't tested yet again, but I would like to. I need to at some point. And that white rock fungal activity that you see, it helps to increase nutrient uptake, and it also increases the number of beneficial microorganisms in the soil. It also helps with carbon storage, and it decreases soil bulk density. What's that mean? It sounds good, so I put it in. Can someone tell me what soil bulk density means? Okay, so it's the same as encourages larger structural porosity then. Yeah, okay, I know what that bit means. So yeah, there's our nursery stock mulched, and that wood chip lasts pretty well 2 years. By the end of the 2 years, just before we're about to lift those trees, you can see quite a bit of bare soil again, but that soil, that wood chip has lasted a good, even from small diameter willow, which is you kind of expect to rot a lot quicker or decay a lot quicker. It does last a good 2 years. And yeah, we apply it quite thickly. Like I say, it's about, I don't know if any of you have heard Ian Tolhurst speak at any point, but like on his field scale veg, I think he's looking at applying something like 3 cubic meters an acre. Does that ring a bell with anyone? It's rich stuff. He doesn't apply a lot, and we apply quite a lot more in a very small space, but it seems to work really well. So yeah, we have these coppices. You know, we've got quite a few different coppices on the site, and it's great having these permanent bits of woodland, essentially. You know, and they have so many benefits. And this is like the joy of agroforestry for me, is that there's so much diversity to the space. You know, they act as a windbreak, they shelter the growing crops, so they create these lovely beneficial microclimates. They're a great wildlife corridor. There's constantly birds in amongst the coppice, and we put bird boxes in there. Any kind of woodland planting helps to increase water infiltration through the soil, so reducing the amount of water surface runoff that you get. Maybe at some point in the future, if we are creating enough wood chip to mulch our nursery stock, we've got a source of craft materials as well, like willow for basketry, or I like the idea of just running some coppicing courses and getting people to come in and chop some trees down and see them come back. I think it's an amazing process. For me, that's one of the ways humans have been really positively interacting with trees for a long time, and it's like, you know, our action of cutting trees down that stimulates that regrowth, and we use that product, and those trees can last a hell of a long time for being coppiced. So if you take a hazel tree, for example, coppice it on a 15-year rotation, 10-year rotation, it can last 500 years. You plant it and leave it to its own devices, it can be 60, 70 years. It's an amazing thing, and it's a great buzz. And again, at some point, I'd like to utilise those coppices, that shady, moist area, for growing mushrooms as well. Our other form of soil improvement is in the form of green manures. So we have this rotation of trees throughout the site. When trees aren't in there and other plants are not in there, then we plant a whole range of green manures. We focus on nitrogen fixing, and our aim is to have bare soil for as very little, for as short a time as possible. So what? Bear with me a second, my mind's gone blank. Yeah, green manures are great. That fast action, like fast plant growth, fast root growth, really helps aggregate the soil, and you know, fast annual growth of green manures is so good for the soil, and again that helps with structural porosity and other things. So there's an image of the plot earlier this year. I'll talk about the other businesses that we have working on site, but we also have a chamomile tea business. A few years ago that plot was down to chamomile for tea, and we harvested trees from there this last winter, and those trees have come out, and we've sown a range of green manures within there. There's some clovers, there's buckwheat, you can see the blue that is Phacelia, and also the chamomile has just come back as well, which makes this amazingly rich, diverse plot that's great for bees. Generally the thinking is you don't let your green manures go to flower, but you know, you let them grow to flower and it's bloody beautiful. It's full of bees and all sorts of insects, hoverflies, butterflies. It's such a beautiful thing, and they do so much for the soil. So this is a picture of the orchard. We grow our trees as cordons. You can see 3 rows of cordons there. A range of apples, pear, plum, cherry, quince, medlar and damson, and they are there mostly for propagation material, and a very handy byproduct is fruit. Like we grow cherries and plums as cordons, which isn't an ideal way to grow them. They don't really like that intense pruning from a fruiting point of view, but for us it's a case of getting a lot of varieties in a small space. So each row is around 100 trees, and we grow 2 varieties of each. We grow 2 trees of each variety. So each row gives us 50 varieties, which means we can have up to 150 different varieties to propagate from, which is more than we need, but we are constantly finding new varieties that are good, or somebody always gets in touch and say, have you got this, or you taste a new variety and it's like, I want this. So we've still got room to fill with different varieties within there. Cordons need summer pruning, and we carry out all our propagation in the summer. We do chip budding, and so it just so works out that the pruning of cordons nicely coincides with the time for harvesting graftwood, so it works really nicely from that respect. Yeah, like I say, we carry out all our propagation in the summertime using a method called chip budding, where you can see on the far right, essentially there's a chip with a bud on it that we take from the mother tree. We insert it into the wood, into the rootstock at about 6 to 8 inches high. And like I'm sure most of you will know of whip and tongue grafting that's carried out in the winter time. This is much quicker, it's much more efficient, it's during a nicer time of year. You have to do it when it's not raining, so it means we can be out there in the sunshine. It's much easier on the hands. The wood is softer than the winter time, so all that repetition with your hands, it's much easier than if you were whip and tongue grafting in the winter time. And you get much nicer trees as well. And you can see, well, can you see that middle photo with those little stubs of trees? These down to that height, just above the bud. We do that in February, and then the growth comes up from that bud. And yeah, you get really lovely trees, much nicer than if you're whip and tongue grafting. Yeah, and we grow a wide range of varieties of top fruits. We've got lots of heritage varieties and regional collections. But it's not just about these old varieties. You know, if they're modern, if they're not British, you know, wherever they're from, whenever they've been bred, if they're disease resistant and they taste good, then you know we're interested in them. So we're on the Welsh border, and I've done a lot of work with. There's an organisation called the Marcher Apple Network, and you should look them up. They've done an amazing amount of work when it comes to rescuing old varieties from the brink of extinction. They've spent a lot of money on DNA testing, making sure that these varieties are named properly. And so, yeah, working with them has given me access to this real wide range of very rare and unusual varieties. So we've got this collection from the Welsh borderlands, and here's one. I meant to bring it, but I ate it on the way up, actually. crimson coining. And again, quite a few of these varieties are new to me. They've only just started fruiting. So this is the first time this has fruited, and it's a beautiful, like, early to mid-season apple, bred in Herefordshire in the 1830s. And here's a modern variety, Red Devil, again very disease resistant, looks beautiful, tastes good, really good disease resistant. It crops really well, so, you know, like I say, it doesn't really matter where or when they've come from, as long as there's good disease resistance and there's good cropping and they taste good, then we're interested in them. And some of these are new to me. The Red Foxwhelp is a cider apple, but Longley Russet is in the mother collection. I've not even tasted it yet. I tried it last week. It's not ripe, but we've got this collection of trees that, you know, once we've tasted them and we decide we like them, we're going to incorporate them into the range of trees that we sell. Schoolmaster is a classic example of that. It's the first time it's fruited. It's a Herefordshire variety from the 1800s. It's not ripe yet, but at some point it might be. We might have it for sale. King's Acre Pippin is another Herefordshire variety, again from the 1800s, and it's named after a place called King's Acre in Herefordshire. So a lot of these old varieties that we're helping to rescue, you know, they celebrate these places and local distinctiveness, and it's really, really important that they're kept going. Fiesta is another modern variety, again good disease resistant, crops really well, tastes good. It's one of those crisp, sweet, tasty ones that kids really like. Sweeney Nonpareil, it's bred in the 1800s. It's the one closest to me. It was bred in Oswestry in a garden in 1807 by the head gardener at Sweeney Hall. So yeah, it's great to have this range of varieties from all over the place, but especially these more unusual local varieties. And Bringewood Pippin is, like, I brought that back from the brink of extinction. People ask me how I got into this. I have some relatives who had a farm in South Shropshire, and I've been going there since before I was born. And at some point I took some apples to a botanist to get identified, and he was like, I've been looking for this. And then he came to the orchard and he was like, we've been looking for that, we've been looking for that. And there were 4 varieties that hadn't been seen for over 100 years, Bringewood Pippin being one of them. So, but it's mostly through the Marcher Apple Network that varieties like this get saved, and they have now got their. They have 4 or 5 different orchards with these collections. So the idea is these genetics are now saved, you know, and they're not in just one orchard. They're in 4 or 5 different orchards throughout the country. So if one orchard gets mullered, you know, we've still got these varieties elsewhere. And we grow really bloody nice trees. Like I say, we do a lot of bud grafting, which means we've got a root system in the ground for 2 years. And these are 1-year-old trees here. And I think, you know, having really good quality soil, the fact that we look after the soil and grow in a really healthy ecosystem, means that, yeah, the trees we pull out the ground are really good, strong, sturdy things. Quite often people say, oh, I want 2-year-olds, I want 3-year-old trees, because these 1-year-old trees are, you know, just a bit too whippy, and that quite often is the case with some nurseries that will sell 1-year-old whip and tongue grafted trees that are like pencil thickness. But yeah, when you're buying trees, if you go get them from nurseries where they're being bud grafted, then you can expect to get trees of this quality. So yeah, it's a fruit tree nursery. That's what I bought the land for, that's what I wanted to do. You know, after having grown trees for 10 years on this other site, and it was going all right. I was enjoying it. So yeah, bottom line, those 6.5 acres is a fruit tree nursery in an agroforestry system. But that is for me the joy of agroforestry, is that there's just so much more. There's more than you could imagine. The possibilities are endless, I think, and it's really exciting, and it's partly what has driven me completely insane and exhausted, but also really gets me bloody excited, because there's the possibilities are endless. So we implement forest garden principles. I was talking to about straight lines and forest gardening. So we have a whole load of rows of woodland, these small coppices, and all our rows run north-south for best light inception, but it means we have a north, an east, a south and a west to these coppices. And the idea on the western side of the coppice is, on the western side you get the evening sun, that's stronger than the morning sun. So we're planting a whole load of soft fruit. Here there's Japanese wineberries. On the west side I think the willow just to the left is viminalis. And this is a picture from the bottom end of that same row. Here we've got corkscrew willow, Chinese super willow and viminalis. We've got Japanese wineberries, the elder shrubs flowering, and at the top there's more Japanese wineberries and loganberries. And they can cope with the shade. They are woodland edge plants. They can cope with that dappled shade. And even now, where the willow is towering above them, they're still all fruiting really well. And again, that's a case of utilising a space that, I guess, normally in a conventional nursery or a conventional setting it would be mown perhaps. So yeah, this is my drawing of the design for those coppices. I've set aside a 10-metre wide alley for those, but I've only planted 5 metres of that. The idea being that those trees are going to spread, so I've allowed 2.5 metres on either side, before then having a tractor alley before the crops start on either side. So I figured with those 2.5 metre margins, let's fill them with useful stuff. So like I say, on the west side it's all about the soft fruit, where we've got that stronger sun. So we're working with a school where we've got some funding to plant currant bushes. We've bought a smoothie bike, and we're going to be making smoothies on this bike. We've already been harvesting strawberries from the site and making smoothies, and it's a bit mental really with 30 kids and a smoothie bike, but it's good fun. The idea for the east side of the coppice, where you haven't got such strong sun, is to plant other stuff. My favourite idea at the moment, and what we're implementing, is mint and comfrey. And here we've been propagating the mint and the comfrey, and you can see we're planting different varieties of mint. And I was told if you plant one variety of mint next to another, they'll homogenise. So we're doing a 10-metre block of mint with one variety type of mint, 5-metre block of comfrey, another variety of mint, and so it goes on. And what I like about this is that you can just, once it's established, you can leave it. We don't have to do anything. It'll flower, it'll attract insects. It's great. And yeah, there are going to be years where we have more labour than others, but that can just be left to its own devices. It's next to a tractor alley. So hopefully it won't spread into the cropping space, because there's a 2-metre alley that's going to be mown regularly. So yeah, we can leave it to its own devices. It'll grow, do loads of good stuff, die, and just keep coming. But we can interact with that as much as we like. The comfrey is amazing for compost, it attracts bees. It's a good chop and drop mulch, has all sorts of goodness. The mint is an amazing foliage for cut flowers. We have a cut flower business working on site. It's a culinary herb, you know, it has so many uses, and I've kind of figured it's a bit nettle-like, so it's going to make a good rich compost like nettles will. I don't know if anyone's got any experience of that. Composting mint, any thoughts? No? Sorry? Right, yeah. So it's got to be good. Yeah. And there you can see, you know, we've got our nursery rows with a 2 metre alley and then the mint and comfrey. So we've got quite a few coppice rows. I don't want to do mint and comfrey on all of them. Anyone got any thoughts for other things on the west side of a coppice? East, thank you, you're listening. Okay. Horseradish, does it spread like crazy? Oh.
No, it's easily managed.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay, they're trees though, aren't they? Right. Okay. Yeah, it'd have to be something small. I mean, wildflowers is another option. They can take a little bit of shade. But yeah, if you have any thoughts, do come and give us a shout, because we'll... Ella campaign? What's that? Okay. Right. Great, I'll look that up. Thank you. So yeah, we've talked about the east and the west side. This is the south side. You can see there's a tractor alley between the willow and the cherry trees in the orchard. There's also a tractor alley the other side. So I drove the tractor down this side, around and back up the other side. And that arc that we made, that the tractor wheels made, we've now made a bed, a perennial bed there with a whole load of flowers and foliage for the cut flower business. So this is on the southern side of the woodland. It's next to the corkscrew willow, which isn't so vigorous, and there's a whole range of flowers there that the cut flower business use. And again, you know, having flowers on site is amazing for attracting insects. What you can't see there is a massive clump of sage, and like sage is just amazing. At some point during the year you can see all 3 stages of ladybirds on the sage. It's just chock-a-block full of pupae, larvae and ladybirds themselves. It's fantastic stuff. Makes a great tea and is really good foliage for cut flowers as well. So we have a few of these perennial beds at the southern side of the coppice, and we've got space to have some more as well, and also we're in the process of developing the northern side of the coppice too. There's another nice picture of it. So yeah, pest control. Our biggest problem on the site at times is aphids, so attracting ladybirds, lacewings and hoverflies is key, because they will predate on the aphids. So we have a real wide range of flowers to attract these creatures in, and it also makes the place look good. And again, that's kind of where the joy comes in. You know, you can be working your arse off, or you've spent hours and hours on a spreadsheet and you wonder why. Growing trees and working with nature involves spreadsheets and computers, and then you see, you know, all these beautiful areas, and we try and mow as little as possible. And we have what's called a seed bank, whereby we'll collect seeds from any flowers on the site, stick them in a pot, and if there's any bare soil at any point, we'll throw it on there. And yeah, we mow we do have quite a mowing regime. Having tall, thick grass next to fruit trees is really good for voles. Voles love to eat fruit trees, so right next to our trees we mow on a regular basis. We mow our orchard on a regular basis, but we have like I think it's an 80 centimetre wide cut on a BCS tractor, and so we'll mow regularly next to the fruit trees, but then leave as much to grow wild as possible. And it's amazing to see all these wildflowers just spreading throughout the site. You know, you'll see things and it's like, I didn't sow that there, I sowed it there, and it's spreading and it's looking great. What time did I start this? Okay. Yep, there's hoverfly on the left and ladybird larvae on the right. Marigold, bloody amazing. Like, so the idea is we track predators, we track insects on site and try and keep them there, so we have lots of bug hotels and lots of rough bits of wood and stone and the likes to try and help these creatures over winter. Birds, especially blue tits, will eat aphids, so attracting those on site are really helpful. We've got a whole load of back boxes that we haven't put up yet, but the idea is to put them throughout the site and they can help with codling moth and tortrix moth. But yeah, essentially diversity is the key. You know, the more diverse, the healthier the site, the better it is for everyone involved. We undersowed the willow coppice with, here's red campion, and there's something else in there I can't remember, but again, you know, it's just beautiful, and it attracts such a wide range of creatures and it brings joy to the heart. There's a picture of one of our green manures, Phacelia, marigold, chamomile, and there's clovers in there as well. Yeah, this is the boundary, the northern boundary. I needed to rabbit-proof fence the place. I felt like I couldn't put my rabbit-proof fencing on the neighbour's border for various reasons, so decided to leave quite a wide margin, one that I could get the tractor up for ease of maintenance, and it means we have this real lovely wildflower strip on the north. And there's a nice photo of wildflowers. Yeah, and again, these are 1-year-old trees. These are cherry and plum trees, and they're towering above my head. Really healthy, really good, solid, strong trees. I had an apprentice for 2 years. He's gone. He was amazing. I mean, yeah, he took on some of the emotional load. He'd tell me, "Oh, Tom, I'm worried about this. I need to get this done. I'm worried," and that was amazing. He's gone, and yeah, I'm a little bit in limbo at the moment. I've got a couple of people working for me that just kind of turn up, do a bit, and bugger off. And it's like, yeah, having somebody else on site that really takes on the place is, yeah, what I'm looking for next, really. But it's been great. We spray with seaweed extract and garlic oil. I did try making some biofertilizers. I didn't get any fermentation going. I'd like to give it another go, but again, time is just a bit hard. But if anybody's had any success with biofertilizers, do come and give us a shout, because it's something I'd like to do again in the future. So we have loads of community involvement as well. We run courses, so this is a winter pruning course, winter grafting course. We do a summer pruning course. My thought was, nobody's pruning these trees. I'm not getting random people in to prune any of my lovely cordons, apart from anyone that works on site. But I ended up having trees in the varieties in the orchard that we're not allowed to sell because they have breeders' rights. So there's about 8 trees that I let people prune on courses, but it works out really nicely actually. We have a lot of community involvement. The site has become used for tours and an educational space. We open up on the National Agroforestry Open Weekend, and people have come from all over the country to this to have a look around. It's great. This is a picture of the Tree Council, one of their corporate days where we had about 30 people come and help plant the coppice. So there's loads going on. We have a market once or twice a year with local artisan producers, and there's a real buzz for that, and it's great to have all these people on site enjoying the space. So this is a veg plot. We have, I think, so we have a few other businesses working on site. The buzzword is enterprise stacking, or the buzz phrase, but essentially we have a cut flower business, we had a veg business, we've got a chamomile tea business, all working as part of the rotation. The veg business, those guys were doing other things, so they've scaled down now to just a bit of an allotment scale size, and Kirsty grows for herself and for us, so we'll quite regularly come to the barn and there's a whole load of onions or veg or peas or squash. Like I say, we have this enterprise stacking thing, and I can quite regularly turn up at the barn after being in the field and it's full of flowers. And if you were here for the talk earlier, Ramial, my friend Ellen, grows flowers as part of the rotation. And so again, just having this diversity within the space is amazing. I could just be working there myself, but there's lots of other things going on. Kirsty has bees there as well as growing veg. She runs training courses. This is a young guy, Sol, who did some work experience and absolutely loved the whole foraging aspect around the site and looking after the bees. That's a nice picture of straight lines of trees. I offer a design service and I supply fruit trees. If you want any lovely fruit trees grown in a beautiful environment, give me a shout. We're running some fruit tree grafting courses in February and March. We're pushing the boat out and trying to get 6 courses running this time. If anyone of you people about agroforestry and agroecology, she wants to interview people managing and working within CSAs to hear their experience. So if anyone's interested in that, come and give me a shout and I can give you Rosie's contact details. And that's it. If anyone's got any questions. I have got the timing right. Yeah, I've got like 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Well, we prune them back because the thing is that they're not much good as a single stem like that anyway. And wherever you prune a fruit tree in the winter time is where that canopy is going to start. So we'll prune them back to 1.5 metres because that's the size we're allowed with the courier. But also, being on a semi-vigorous rootstock, it doesn't want its canopy to start any higher than that. Okay. So, the idea is you don't want to put apple trees in the same space until you've had a 7-year gap. Yeah, before apple trees go back in there. So, it'll be green manures, it'll be veg, chamomile tea, cut flowers. And chamomile tea is great because Aaron comes in April cultivates, sows the chamomile tea. In August he harvests the flower heads. So essentially he's growing a green manure for me in the summertime. I then flail mow it, work it back in, and then sow a winter green manure of rye and vetch. And that's... he always goes back to doing it by hand with a pair of scissors, no matter what device he buys or gets made up. Yeah, it's labour intensive. Well, he's tried that. At the back.
Do you find that different varieties of apples grow better in certain soils, or is there a difference?
Yeah, some varieties are horrendous. Like take Cox's orange pippin, for example. It's a very disease-prone variety. It tastes great, but it doesn't like it on the wetter west of the country. But quite often with soils, it's the rootstock as well. So choosing the right rootstock that can cope with different soil conditions is really important, as well as varieties. We do concentrate on a range of varieties that are hardy.
And how can you replant an old orchard with apples, an apple orchard? How successful is it putting in new trees after?
I've done that. I mean, the idea is there is a lot of talk about not doing it because of replant disease, but if you were to plant it like in the gaps between the old trees, it does work. I've done it and I've seen it, and it is successful. Yeah.
Thank you.
We're applying it about 8 centimetres deep, and even building up. We'll plant the rootstock and we'll build up against the stem, and it doesn't have any negative effect. Like if you put soil up against the stem, sometimes the rootstock will put roots out, but it doesn't with the wood chip. But 6.5. Yeah. Viminalis, Salix viminalis, I mean, I've had it for 4 years and it's growing well, and we've had droughts, and I always thought it obviously does love wet ground and probably will grow better in wetter ground, but it's doing okay. Well, it's doing really well with us. Thank you.
Two questions. One is we're going to be doing some support in the community garden collection and access to some of the outdoor collection. Obviously, you were saying that
if it's a range of broadleaf wood chip, you can, like 20% conifer mix is okay, but you don't want any more than that. You need to know what kind of wood chip it is first. But any hardwood is good.
Secondly, just interesting because we hear a lot about how are you finding it in terms of your sales? Mainly individual trees, or are you finding that there are new orchards?
There's loads of new orchards being planted, and I mean, like I've talked about this quite a lot recently. Where do we start with supermarkets and the likes? But if you think about the amount of trees, I'm a very small nursery. There's loads of other bigger nurseries in the country selling. Hundreds of thousands of new fruit trees are being planted in this country every year, and the majority of apples that are bought in this country, a huge percentage of apples bought in this country come from abroad, and it's like, if we could get all this fruit that's from these trees that have been planted out to people, people wouldn't have to buy from the supermarkets. There's so much fruit out there. It would be a case of kind of organising things properly to like, yeah, there's so much fruit, and yeah, it's got to be possible, surely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
When we're looking at planting a little mini orchard on a really windy site up on a hill in Cornwall, do you recommend using a more vigorous rootstock?
Yeah, like MM111 is the best apple rootstock for extreme conditions. It has very deep tap roots, and it's good anchorage. It's the best in very wet soils. It's the best in very dry soils. Yeah, and it has the best anchorage of all the apple rootstocks.
And you reckon it's worth giving it a go, or is there a good plan around?
Yeah, and yeah, I work with quite a few orchards in Wales, and I've been lucky to work with this guy who, like, he's a perfect apple nerd. Records everything, rainfall, harvest, volume off each tree, and he has this list of varieties that grow well in his exposed Welsh hill farm. And he's shared that with me, and I'm growing some of these varieties. So yeah, we can help you out there.
Just on rootstocks, would you say
Yeah, well, yeah. If you think about genetic diversity, we're planting orchards quite often on just one rootstock, so we are limiting ourselves. But I mean, they've been going for years, and like that research must have been done really bloody well, because they're still being used and they're still showing some good disease resistance. New ones are coming out, but yeah, genetically, if you've got an orchard of however many trees all on MM106, then there is no diversity there. But fair play, they've done something right. There is some good disease resistance there. Yeah. Uh, 45 degrees is a good one. Yeah. The closer to horizontal a branch is, the more likely, the more fruit it puts out. Vertical stems are generally more vigorous at the expense of flowering. Horizontal stems are less vigorous and will flower and fruit more. Yeah. Yeah, so we have 3 or 4 wires and then a bamboo cane tied, and then we train our tree along the bamboo. Yeah. Those are on MM106 and M116, so 2 very similar rootstocks at 80 centimetres apart. That it? Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. And dinner.